Coming up on show 5, 6, 7, Ford go affordably electric. Why Renault Zoe's winning in Europe, and your question of the week answered. Those stories and many more coming up on the show today. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to EV News Daily. Sunday, 1st of September edition today. My name is Martyn Lee, going through every EV story that I can find to save you time. No Saturday edition yesterday. It's very rare that I miss a show, but a busy weekend, so apologies for missing a show. Hopefully you'll forgive me. I do have a bit of housekeeping, actually, after all of that, to get through. Firstly, a couple of reviews came in. Should I do this at the end? You know what? I'm going to do all of this housekeeping at the end of the podcast because let's get on with the news. From Ford. Well, actually, let's start with a mini housekeeping. Little mini housekeeping. I saw a spreadsheet today which listed Audi's European electric cars, and this may not be true, it may be true, but we'll present this as a rumour. From Audi in Europe, the e-tron S is going to be available in May. The e-tron S Sportback is new to me. e-tron S Sportback available in May, and the e-tron GT... that's the one, I think, built on the Porsche Taycan platform. That's available November 2020. Like I say, I saw a thing, can't say where it came from. Could be a load of old rubbish. Well, let's talk about Ford. Autocar recently travelled to Ford headquarters in Dearborn, Michigan, and it gleaned exclusive information about the future of Ford directly from its top executives. The article is packed with inside information and direct quotes. It says, Inside EVs, talking about Ford's Global Product Development Director for Battery Electric Vehicles. Now, his name is Darren Palmer. And let me just read you this. It's a long quote, but it's really interesting. This is from somebody who's very high up in Ford and what he thinks of EVs. I was unsure at first. For me, electric cars were more about sensible buying than exciting cars. I knew then. Sharif Markabi, our autonomous vehicle CEO, said, trust me, this is going to be the next big development in cars. When you know them, you'll love them. And he was right. I just couldn't believe how good these new cars were. They could do things you'd never do in an ICE car. They were just better. We're hitting our biggest icons first, but we have more and we'll keep working through them. We decided very carefully where we'd play in the EV market and that everyone would amplify the characteristics of the model it was based on. Each one had to be extremely desirable, but at an attainable price. It's the greatest change and opportunity in the auto industry in 30 years. And probably a lot longer. Today's performance battery electric vehicle isn't just about the electric motor, it's about software. Surprises, over-the-air updates, cleverness, the fact it can learn and anticipate what you want and make your life better. It's an entirely new kind of product. Those who try it will never go back. End quote. And that is from somebody sitting very close to the top of Ford. And if I was to write the perfect paragraph explaining what a legacy OEM I hope they would say about EVs, that is pretty much 99% of the way there. Look, it's there in words. We just need to see there in products. But it's amazing to hear somebody so high up in a company like Ford. Basically, if you or I had written that, it'd be like, nah, this is too good to be true. I'll pop a link to Inside EVs in the show notes. Here in Europe, the big news in July was that the Renault Zoe profited from the expected Tesla off-peak month, winning another monthly trophy, its fourth this year. Well, the French hatchback and the Tesla Model 3 have actually divided all the monthly wins this year. January, April, May, July went to Renault. February, March, June for Tesla, says Clean Technica. Well, they write that with Tesla starting to deliver the Standard Range Plus versions by now, and Renault expected to double the Zoe's output with the upcoming restyling, don't expect the current status quo to change too much, or at least until the VW ID3 will start delivering in large volumes, Q2 2020. Let's hope. I'll pop a link to Clean Technica in the show notes if you want to read more. Tomorrow on the podcast, I'm going to give you details of the Renault Zoe pricing in Europe, in France, in Germany. Haven't got UK pricing, but it goes on sale this week. SEAT, which is the Spanish bit of VW, the ever so slightly more affordable and slightly more Spanish part of Volkswagen Group. They've unveiled a new electric SUV concept with a 77 kilowatt hour battery pack based on VW's new MEB platform under their brand of performance cars, they call it the Seat Cupra. It says electric. The concept has a 77 kilowatt hour lithium-ion battery pack. Now, Seat claims that's good for 280 miles, 450 Ks. That figure is based on WLTP, which is slightly more optimistic than EPA. The battery pack is powering 2 electric motors, 225 kilowatts or 306 PS of power. Inside the vehicle, 4 bucket seats, so no back bench of a seat. It's a 4-seater. It's a concept. I doubt it'll ship like that. 2 large screens. Prototype is going to be seen at this year's IAA Frankfurt International Motor Show, which is getting so close. And talking about that, the VW ID3 will be shown off. Let me give you details. First, though, of the IDR. That is the record-breaking cousin of the ID3. The IDR holds the record on Pikes Peak in the US, Goodwood Festival of Speed, the hill climb, the electric lap record on the Nürburgring Nordschleife, and now the fastest time going up a mountain in China called Tianmen Mountain. These records are getting a little more obscure, but the press releases keep on coming, and it's all about keeping the publicity machine ticking along, with VW's ID. The car is the motorsport ambassador for Volkswagen's electric range. The ID family will start with the ID3. World premiere, September 10th. We are just 10 days away. Frankfurt Motor Show for that. Romain Dumas did 99 tight corners up the mountain in 7 minutes 38 seconds, and that's faster than ever before. Not a record I think that anyone was talking about before or will ever talk about again. But like I say, they're doing it in order to keep the little publicity machine ticking along. VW need their electric headlines, as they've got no real electric cars to sell you. Oh, the Golf, by the way, had a price cut in Germany earlier in the week, and now the UK gets a price cut as well. I'll get those exact numbers on tomorrow's show. Right, question of the week this week, before my little housekeeping bits at the end. Question of the week this week, we were talking about your experiences of charging. If you're an EV owner, how do you charge and why do you choose that charging pattern? And can we help out EV curious listeners with some advice based on your experience? Shahad says, I live in an apartment with no charging access. I charge at work. I plug in for the last few hours of the day. When people start going home, the chargers open up. I only do this a few days a week just to top up. My work offers free charging, so it works very well. And I've had to stop at a paid charger only once in 2 months. This includes the extra miles I spend driving for Lyft to make the payments on my EV, since I hadn't financially been planning on upgrading until my old car would die. I was already EV curious, but your podcast is one of the things that pushed me over the edge and the decision to upgrade. Shahad, thank you for the compliment. I hope you're loving life as an EV driver. Carl Kramer says, as a renter, I can't charge at home. Luckily, work offers free charging from solar power, and my gym nearby charging lot has free charging too. Morning and evening is his charging routine. Doug Vowles says, too often parameters and criteria from the petrol world have been overlaid onto the EV world by non-EV owners and those wanting to be EV owners, hence the how far can you go question. The reality is, what Doug does is lots of little e-sips, he called them. Like sipping electrons. E-sips. And the occasional full charge. If the new model is understood and internalised by the majority of the buying public, the need for big range will take a back seat. John Christiansen says, my wife and I have our Chevy Bolt for a year in Chicago. We have a level 2 charger in a garage. Charging routine changes with the season. In the spring and the fall, the car is unplugged and they charge every other week because at that time of the year, the Bolt is efficient. In the summer and winter, they leave it plugged in. In the summer, the garage gets hot. And of course, the battery's got to cool, got to get some aircon going sometimes. In the winter, it's super cold. And he says, and the car is plugged in to stay warm. The range drops significantly. So our charging routine changes season to season. Jonathan Price says, as a Zoe owner, our Zoe became the primary car, but we quickly realised our 4 kilowatt solar system wasn't enough to charge the Zoe along with household, so upgraded to 8 kilowatts of solar and a Powerwall too, funded by some of the payments that you get back by having solar panels. Added a Zappy hub and extra sensors to tune the battery and car charging. With the extra solar, runs his Zoe on sunshine for most of the year, sometimes dumping excess power into the Powerwall, and even on partly sunny days, he charges for free. Fantastic. Zappy now varies the charging rate automatically between 1.4 and 7 kilowatts to avoid unnecessary consumption from the grid. Since he had his Powerwall installed in mid-May, the Zoe's been running on 85% sunshine. David Nye says our plug-in has up to 45 kilometres of range. So, our charging pattern, we charge it every night. We use off-peak power and charge after midnight. We can and sometimes do top up a little at the local shopping centre at 3.6 kilowatts. Sasha says, I'm a city dweller, so no home charging like in suburbia. I charge once a week at a supercharger. I got parking at a location with supercharging, which happens to be a transit station. State of charge normally sits at around 65 to 85%. When travelling, I use superchargers only. Alex Banahini says, I started off doing full charging at home every time it got down to 50 miles, but after a year of use, I go down to 20 miles now. Generally, this meant charging about once a week, normally on Sunday. Eduard Pertinez says, I plug in the Kona EV, got the big one, 64 kilowatt hour, plugs in every night, configured to charge between 1 and 7 a.m. and only go to 80%. Here in Catalonia, you can opt for special nighttime tariffs that are 8 euro cents a kilowatt hour. Night tariffs are so cheap because of nuclear and wind generation at night. I'm charging my car with recycled energy, renewable energy, I think maybe you mean. It cannot be greener than that. Hello to Richard. I have a new Zoe that'll go 280 kilometres between charges. I charge often as I like to park at an EV station when I shop. I top the car off at the designated spot, but never abuse my stay. Jerry Allison says, I've owned a Model 3 for a year now and I charge the car whenever I can. Mostly at charge point stations for an hour or so at a time. I tend to charge if possible when I go out for dinner or lunch. Some stations provide faster charging. They're free, mostly because they're city-owned and free to the public. I charge at home once or twice a month. There are 12 solar panels on my roof, says Jerry, making 1,400 plus watts of electricity. And if I charge at home, I tend to wait for a sunny day. Finally, Mark Weston says, when I took delivery of my Hyundai Kona Electric, the big battery, I asked the exact question, and I was told to only charge to 100% when I do a long journey, and otherwise stick to 80%. I run it down to 10% and then recharge back up on occasions to 90%. I'm currently charging up to every 8 days. Wow, less than once a week. That's impressive. Let's set a brand new question of the week this week with myev.com. What's your favourite EV experience? If you're an EV driver, maybe you've experienced one once. What's your favourite EV experience? And if you've never had one, what would you like it to be? Maybe it's a YouTube video you saw or something that you'd like to do. Email me, hello@evnewsdaily.com. Leave a comment on Facebook and Twitter. All right, well, a couple of bits of housekeeping then. I had a couple of reviews come in over the weekend, and I wanted to read these out because I'm so grateful to you for leaving these. Raj in the USA says, best podcast out there. Martin gives a nice overview of the day's EV news and makes a sense of community by interacting with listeners. Great to participate in Question of the Week. So many of today's EV podcasts are Tesla-centric. It's hard to find a podcast that's more inclusive. Thank you, Raj. I appreciate that. And hello to Mike Cheeseman in the USA. Says, it's a daily must-hear. The world of e-transport is really dynamic and unfolding rapidly around the world. Martin is arranging these fascinating developments into manageable chunks, long enough to be considered a formidable expert in the field. Oh, I wouldn't say that, Mike, but, you pick up a few things along the way. And very entertaining show as well. Thank you for doing what you do, says Mike, and thank you for leaving a review. I mention reviews because I have 197 reviews this week. Be amazing to get to 200. So if you haven't done it yet and you have 2 minutes to spare and you're on Apple Podcasts anywhere in the world, I'd love to see what you think of this podcast. There's 432 5-star ratings. How did that happen? Oh, thank you very much. Right, I had an email. Next bit of housekeeping. Had an email from Mitchell. Now, Mitchell says, I'd like to make a suggestion for the podcast. You make 2 daily shows, one covering only Tesla and one covering everything else EV. Mitchell, what are you trying to do to me? Holy moly. I'm up late and up early every day to get through the workload. But I know what you mean. I think it's an interesting point. There's a lot of news out there, and a lot of it is interesting to Tesla superfans, maybe not to everyone. I'll bear your thought in mind. Right, update on the brand new Zoe. We just ticked over 1,000 miles in the new car. We've had it a month, and We took our first nail to a tyre in a very long time. Firstly, the first nail we've taken to a tyre in an EV. The last puncture we had years and years and years ago. My wife was on her own. Last night, we went for a meal because I hadn't seen my wife. I was working all weekend. And then my wife saw her family. And we hadn't seen each other Friday or Saturday. And most of Sunday because we were both busy. So we went for dinner Sunday night just to find 2 hours, husband and wife, to talk about things. And how is your life generally? And then in the car park, we took a nail to the tyre. So the first time I've ever seen on the Renault Zoe, which is interesting that the tyre pressure sensors do actually work. The screen goes red and it says it's either puncture stop car or stop car puncture. Anyway, it worked. And thank you very much to my local tyre centre, who, because it's a brand new tyre, basically, it's one of the rear ones, no wear on it at all. And the way that we took the nail, it could be repaired really easily. And so £20 for a repair rather than £115 for what would have been because it's a brand new car. So I would have got the matching tyre to the other three. I wouldn't have cheaped out like I normally do on old cars. And so it would have been a Michelin Energy EV, which is £115, but we didn't have to do that. So there you go, a little update on my life there. I took a nail last night to the Zoe, and if you are anywhere in Florida, I hope you're okay. Hurricane Dorian is, of course, bearing down. I checked in with one of my friends. I've got a good friend who lives in Miami, and I checked in on him today, kind of out of nowhere. I'm sure he's fine. He's a big boy. But I just checked in on him and his family and his girls. And, you okay? He's like, yeah, absolutely fine. His Teslas are parked in the garage. And in fact, the batteries are full. They can even survive and keep the fridges running and things. And on their EV batteries, which is cool. He's doing okay. But I was just checking in. If you're in the area, stay safe. Joshua Pritt, one of my listeners, emailed me to say, with Hurricane Dorian pressing into Florida, everyone keeps asking how I will evacuate with my Nissan Leaf. I have to explain to them that I just don't wait until the day of the storm. As long as you leave a day early, use route planners, you get charging stops, I'll be fine. I also explained that I could use my Volt and just drive normally. And you could, if you have a Volt and you want to fill up with gas, wait in line with everybody else. But there you go. Thank you very much for bearing with me on all the little housekeeping-y bits that I'd missed out on Saturday's show. So, right, we better start the music and say thank you to everybody on Patreon. Thank you, premium partners. Phil Roberts from Electric Future. Big solar installations in the UK. Thank you, Brad Crosby, our premium partner, and Avid Technology. We'll hear from them soon, actually. And my partners, David Allen. Thank you, David. OEM Audio of New Zealand and evpower.co.nz for your supplies in New Zealand. Hello to Paul O'Connor. Hello to Blake Boland at EV Life Ireland and tryev.com. And all of my executive producers, Alan Robson, Alan Shedd, Alex Banahini, Alexander Frank, Anders Hove, Ashley Hill, Bjard Fuchstack, Barry Penniston, Brent Kingsford, Brian Thompson, Brian Weatherall, Cesar Trujillo, Charles Hall, Chris Hopkins, Colin Hennessy, made that one up, Craig Coles, Craig Rogers, Damien Davis, Dan Fairs, Darren Bird, Darren Sants from Yorkshire EVs, Dave Jewson, David Barkman, David Finch, David Partington, David Prescott, Dirk Rutzatz, Don McAllister from screencastsonline.com, Enrico Stefanchillo, Frederick Rovick, Free Jewel, aka James, Gene Rubin, Jeff Lowe, George Clargo, Ian Griffiths, Jack Oakley, James Storr, Jason Fan, Jeff Irby, Jerry Allison, Jill Smith, Jim Morris, John Bailey, John Lacey from Click Clack Video NZ, John, who is Beardy McBeardface, John Nodell, Juan Gonzalez, Ken Morris, Kevin Masson, Carl Mann, Lars Dallager, Lawrence D. Allen, Lejek Grigil, Luke Cully, Marcel Lohman, Marcel Ward, Marlon Shell, Martin Croft, Matt Piccioni, Matthew Ellis, Mad Shah, Mia Oppelstrup, Michael Pastroni, Michael Coffin, Mike Rogers, Mike Winter, Nathan Gore Brown, Neil E. Roberts and Sussex EVs, Northern Explorers, Ohad Aston, Paul Ridings, Paul Seeger-Smith, Paul Stevenson, Perry Simpkins, Pete Glass, Pete Gorton, Peter and D. Roberts, Oxfordshire EVs, Phil Mouchet, Pontus Kindblad, Rajiv Narayan, Ralph Jensen, Renee Schneider, and Rob Cooling of appledriving.co.uk. Rob Hermans, Robin Tanner, Rupert Mitchell, Sabby the Cat. Yes. Sarah McCann, Sarah Kangasoja, Sakey Payne, Steve Johns, Stuart Hannah, The Limousine Line in Sydney, The Plug Seekers, EV YouTube channel, Tim Gutteridge, William Langhorne, and Zach Hurst. 566 previous shows online. Get the new ones first and free and automatically by subscribing. Do me a review if you can on Apple Podcasts. No worries if not. Catch me on socials by searching EV News Daily. Have a bloomin' wonderful day. I will catch you tomorrow for the start of a brand new week. And remember, there is no such thing as a self-charging hybrid.